Hello, everyone. I wanted to drill down on today's podcast episode onto the topic of owning your headspace. And the reason I think that this is really resonating with me right now, I was writing in my journal just a couple weeks ago, and this thought occurred to me. Your body is like a computer, right? And your thoughts are like the computer program that tells the computer what to do. Now, if you've ever done any type of coding or computer programming or anything like that, you probably know that kind of concept really well. But basically, essentially, a computer cannot do anything except what it's programmed to do. So if it's not doing what it's supposed to do, we have to go back and look at the program, look at the directions that tell the computer what to do. And I had that analogy just kind of come to my mind that our body is much like that computer, and the program for us as people are the thoughts that we're choosing for ourselves. Now, that may not sound like rocket science to you, but I realized at a very deep level that if I understand that concept, that means I absolutely own my headspace, right? The real estate between your ears is something that you own, and you absolutely control your thoughts. And the reason that's so critical and so important and so powerful is that when you realize that you're in control of your thoughts, that means that you're writing the program for your physical self. You're writing the program for your life by the thoughts that you choose to think. So the question really kind of comes down to, once I understand I'm writing the program for my life by the thoughts that I think in my head, because I own that headspace. Nobody else has any claim to that real estate. Now, you might give them a claim to that real estate. You might give them a lease to the headspace in your head, right? But you don't have to. And so why would you? Because once you realize that that's your real estate and you're the one in control of writing the program for your life with the thoughts that you choose, then it's really critical to think about, well, who or what am I letting influence those thoughts? And then what thoughts am I choosing that are serving me, that are working well for me? And then what thoughts am I choosing that aren't serving me, that aren't working well for me? Now, like with anything, we won't get this right 100% of the time, but realizing that we're the programmer. You are the programmer of your life. And the trick is to really, number one, identify when your thoughts are not serving you in a specific situation. Now, how this plays out in relationships, for example, is, let's say your significant other and you're home on the weekend and you've had a long, busy week at work, and so you're stressed, and your significant other, your spouse, has had a long, busy week and stressed, and there's chores and the kids have ball games that somebody's got to be there and to take them to, and you're tired and you just really would like to just sleep in on Saturday, but you got to go buy groceries and do laundry and get the kids to football practice or basketball, and all of these things on top of the busy week. You worked all week, you worked long hours, you didn't get time to go exercise, whatever. So let's just say that you're in that moment kind of stressed out a little bit, and for whatever reason, your significant other says or does something that just rubs you the wrong way. And, that's happened to all of us. It's just a fact of being in any relationship with someone where you're, dealing with them on a long-term basis, a regular basis, and spending time together. Sooner or later, one of you is going to do something that the other person doesn't like, or say something that the other person doesn't like. And so in that moment, what happens a lot of times is that person says or does something that we don't like. And so we instantly tell ourselves a story about why they're doing it. We try to rationalize or justify their behavior based on a story inside our heads. Now, the problem is that story inside our head is usually not right. It's usually not accurate. Most of the time, it's not even close, because we see the world as we are through our frame of reference. We don't see the world as it is. We see it from our rose-colored glasses or our blue-colored glasses. And that person might be acting out of green-colored glasses, so to speak. And the reason that that's powerful is because that means in that moment, when that story pops into our head and we try to justify or rationalize their behavior with the story, we're choosing to think about that situation in a specific way. And that can trigger more self-destructive behaviors. So somebody says or does something, and you tell yourself a story about it, and you snap and you get mad. And so you raise your voice, right? You're changing your behavior based on the story you're telling yourself. And that's not going to help you in that relationship. That is never going to help you build positive influence with your significant other. And it's interesting because we get this right more often at work in a professional environment than we do at home. It's almost like we are the worst version of ourselves with the people that we love the most. And that's sad in a way, but it's almost like we know that we have a little more energy invested into the relationship. And so we feel a little more free to just, not be as controlled or proactive with our responses. Now, we've probably all gotten that wrong at work as well, but it's almost like we have a shorter fuse at home with the people that we spend the most time with, that we love. Hopefully we're spending the most time with. So, that all ties back to, choosing the thoughts about a specific situation. Owning your headspace means you choose how you're thinking about that situation. And I've said it over and over and over again, how you think determines how you feel. When you start telling your story about a negative reason for someone else's behavior, you start feeling in a negative way towards them, and you start acting differently. Whereas if you tell yourself a different story, give them a little grace, or give them a positive motive, or, just change that thought in that moment and empathize, maybe that's even better, then you start feeling and acting in a positive way. And that can help you move forward in the relationship without disrupting or destroying the relationship, right? That's even worse. So that's how that choosing our thoughts thing can play out in relationships. And last podcast episode, I did a little drill down into how to increase our influence with ourselves. And I gave the example of how I used to, years ago when I started realizing that I needed to exercise early in the morning because nothing else is happening at 5 o'clock in the morning, that I had to build my influence with myself, right? So relative to owning your headspace, if this is you and you're wanting to create an exercise habit, for example, I would challenge you to think about how you're thinking. Are you telling yourself, man, I don't want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's so early. It's dark. It's cold. It's raining. Are you choosing those thoughts? Because I guarantee you, if you choose those thoughts, then it's going to be a lot harder to get up the next morning, even if it is cold and raining. Or you could choose the thoughts of, wow, I'm going to knock this workout out first thing in the day. Nothing is going to get in between me and my health and my commitment to my physical well-being. I am the type of person that I keep my commitments to myself, and so forth. If you choose those thoughts, it's going to be a whole lot easier to get up and make it happen. Now, this happened a couple of weeks. I really had this example after I wrote down in my journal about our body kind of being the computer and our thoughts of the program. And then just a couple of weeks ago, I got up for a training run, and I'm training I've got 2 spring marathons, but the big one on my radar for the spring is the Boston Marathon. And I did a podcast on that a couple of weeks ago about my journey to get there and to get accepted. And, I've looking forward to this marathon in April, and here it is, February, and I ran a fall marathon. So this means I ran a fall marathon and went right back into training. So I've had quite a few months at this point of getting up super, super early, going to the track a couple of days a week, long runs, watching all of the calories and eating the right things, and trying to, at least the majority of the time. And so this incident that happened just a couple of weeks ago, the alarm clock goes off at 3:15, and 3:15 is early. Don't get me wrong. It is early, but in order to be at the track, to start running with, we've got a group of us who are kind of training and committed to being there together. that accountability certainly helps. But in order to be there and to start running that early, I've got to get up at 3:15 to just make sure I'm awake, and I've got time to maybe drink a cup of hot tea or something like that. So anyway, the alarm clock went off at 3:15. I get ready and I drive to the track to start my workout. And it was drizzling. It wasn't completely pouring, but it was drizzling pretty good, certainly, and cold. It was in the low 40s and cold. And, rain in the summertime is not bad, because that's nice, right? When it's hot and it's a little sprinkle, that's nice. But when it's cold and it's raining, then it's just a whole lot. You have to wear layers, you have to bundle up to stay warm so you don't get too cold. So there's just a whole lot more that goes into it. Not to mention, I think the hardest thing is getting out of the car. When you drive up and you're like, oh man, it's raining, I got to get out and go run. And the workout that day was a 9-mile marathon pace workout. So this is a pretty tough workout. As we're getting closer and closer to the race, the workouts get a little more strenuous. And so that meant about an hour and a half of running in the cold rain. But it was interesting because, I'd really been dedicated to this training. And I think having reached this goal in my training, it's almost easier to tackle the training this time around, because I feel like, wow, this is almost a, icing on the cake moment. And so it's been a whole lot easier to own my headspace relative to this training this time around, because I feel like I've achieved a big goal and I'm working toward another goal. So I really, it was raining, it was cold. I'm like, just get up and get a rain jacket and go on anyway. And so I was in a good place relative to owning my own headspace. And one of the other people in the group, I said, as everyone arrives, we greet each other. Good morning. How you doing? And the other person was like, and it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek joke, but really the comment was, I'm questioning my life choices right about now. And I had to laugh, because sure, anytime it's like 4:30 in the morning and it's raining and it's cold, and no doubt it would be a question of your life choices in that moment. Is this the best choice? Particularly when, you could be running on a treadmill and it would be perfectly dry, right? So it's, it was kind of a tongue in cheek, and we all had a laugh about it. But I thought about that, because you see, I don't want to give that negative connotation, if you will, any headspace. I don't want to give that any real estate in my head. I'm not going to, because I don't want to start to feel negative about this upcoming workout. I mean, it's okay to make a joke and laugh, and we all do, but I'm not going to focus on it. I'm not going to dwell on it. And so in that moment, when someone says something and that thought is like, ooh, should I be questioning my life choices right now? I'm like, you know what? No, I've already made this commitment and I've already decided this is my course of action. I'm not going to, even jokingly in this instance, give it any space about questioning life choices. Now, it wasn't meant in a negative manner, and it was meant as a joke, and we did laugh. But my point here is, in that instant, we have a choice about how to receive the influences around us. Do we dwell on that? Do we focus on that? Or do we reject that and push that away? One of my favorite quotes from Les Brown is, don't let someone else's opinion of you become your reality. And I love that, right? Don't let someone else's opinion of you become your reality. What he's really saying there is, you own that headspace, regardless of what other people think, regardless of their opinion of you, of your ability, of what they think about what you should do. Don't let their opinion become your reality, because you're the only one who controls that reality. You're the programmer. You get to write the program. Don't let somebody else write your program. Right. And that's what I mean when I talk about owning your headspace. That's what I'm saying, is that, sure, people will say things or do things, or you'll read something, or there's so many influences out there that can influence you in a negative direction, but you don't have to let it derail you. You don't have to let it get you off course. You might be committed to healthy eating, and this commercial comes on TV, and it's like the most yummiest, cheesiest, pizza with full of cheese and fat and carbohydrates and all of the bad things that you're like, oh, I'm trying to not eat that right now. And this wonderful commercial comes on and it just looks so good. And doesn't food always look better on commercials than it does in real life anyway? I don't know how they do that, but regardless of when that happens, you don't have to give that any headspace. You can just turn that away, choose the thought in the moment of, no, I'm committed to a healthier eating session or a healthy eating in the season of my life because I value my health. I want to increase my health perspective for myself. I want to increase or decrease my blood pressure, decrease, whatever it is. If you're committed to it, when that negative or potential derailing influence happens, you're going to push it away and choose to think about why you made this commitment to yourself to begin with, or choose to think about whatever it is going on in a more positive way, right? You're writing the program. And it's going to be very easy for other influences to kind of come in and try to derail that progress, or, write a little custom code in there that says something else. And you're like, no, I'm not going to give anybody else the keyboard to write my computer program. This is my life. This is my potential. These are my results in my life. And I'm not going to let anybody else derail that. So back to Les Brown's quote, don't let someone else's opinion of you become your reality, right? It's your reality and you've got to own it. Only you can own it, but you can own it. Until next time.